So on the one hand, Bernie Sanders refuses to concede and drop out of the presidential race, and he refuses to endorse Hillary Clinton. But on the other hand, he says that he will probably vote for Hillary Clinton, and he's going to do any and everything he can to stop Donald Trump. So this right here is really confusing to members of the Democratic establishment because they don't know what his endgame is and they're perplexed. So for example, former Senator Kent Conrad says, so far, Sanders has been riding a wave of good feelings in the sense he ran in an incredible campaign, but that has a pretty short shelf life, and then people start looking at you through a different lens, and that lens is, are you a team player? And do you have the larger picture in mind, or are you just focused on yourself? At some point, pretty soon, he crosses the threshold. He may have already crossed it. So let me translate what he's saying for you. Bernie, what are you doing, man? I mean, aren't you a team player? Aren't you going to fall in line for Hillary Clinton after we rigged the entire Democratic primary against you? I mean, after we scheduled the debates on weekends when nobody would watch, after we banned you from accessing your own voter data files, I mean, aren't you willing to join up with us and be a team player? Or are you just selfish, Bernie Sanders? I mean, even though there was rampant election fraud this season, aren't you going to be a team player now? Come on. It's so frustrating because they don't get it. It's not selfish. He's doing this because he cares about the policies, and unfortunately, he's failing in many regards to actually change the Democratic Party because they're very resistant to change. They don't want to change. They want to continue to represent their corporate interests. Case in point, the official DNC platform endorses the TPP. Now, that's not super surprising considering the sitting president, Barack Obama, actually supports it. But I mean, are you going to be progressive and represent the people, or are you not? Now, when it comes to former governor of Pennsylvania, Ed Rendell, he said, I'm confused by it. If he wants to speak in prime time at the convention, then he has to suspend his campaign. If I was leading the movement and I wanted to convince the American people that the movement was correct, then I'd want to speak in prime time. But apparently, he must not want to because he hasn't thrown in the towel. This is beyond condescending because this reminds me of if you're like a parent and you're trying to bribe your kid with like a cookie. Well, don't you want the cookie? Well, you better behave. Otherwise, I'm going to give it to your brother or your sister. This is what this sounds like. Bernie, I mean, don't you want to speak at the primetime event? Look how great this speaking gig is at the DNC. Don't you want that? Shouldn't you drop out? It's so frustrating to me that they would talk to him like this. He's not doing it for himself. He's not in this to get anything out of it. He didn't even want to run for president. He's over 70 years old. I mean, he's doing this because he legitimately cares about the people. So when you look at Hillary Clinton and Debbie Do Anything for Hillary Wasserman Schultz's appointees, well, they rejected many progressive proposals. So after that, after it's the case that the Democratic Party still doesn't want to represent progressives, I don't think Bernie Sanders has any reason to drop out or endorse Hillary Clinton ever. Progressive voters have no representation when it comes to the Democratic Party. All the ideas that we care about, actually fighting against the TPP, banning fracking, we have no representation. Both parties support fracking. So, I mean, is this or is it not a democracy? It's so frustrating. And then they have the audacity to actually talk down to us after they spit in our faces and give us the middle finger. I just hate it. This is why July 29th is Dump Dems Day. If Bernie Sanders isn't the nominee, then I don't want to be a part of this party anymore. We've tried to actually reform them from within, and now since we can't do that, we have to try to reform them externally, outside of the party, so that way we can show them that we mean business. We will not support them if they betray us. So no, he shouldn't drop out, and if anything, he should actually endorse Jill Stein if he's going to give any endorsements, just to give them the middle finger, the way that they did to him. So this is extremely frustrating. Of course, they're perplexed, though, because they're idiots. They can't understand why he would want any leverage in reshaping the party because they think he's just doing it for himself because they're projecting, because they're very greedy, they're very narcissistic and only care about their political career. So they think that Bernie Sanders is doing the same thing when he's not doing that.